Welcome back to your weekly installment of the Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards on the reserve list this week from September 12th to the 19th of 2025. And just how well is the market faring with Spider-Man coming around the corner? Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one. The impact of any set is felt on a weekly basis, and this week is no different. I'm MTG Moxman, and welcome back for another edition. Now, of course, before we start this week's Top 10, a reminder, if you're shopping on TCG Player, don't forget to use my affiliate link found in the description of every video. Our number 10 card this week is Umbral Caller Zealot from Edge of Eternities. Now, this card does have an average price of 96 cents a copy, which puts it under $1 for a very valuable uncommon. Now, this card had 1,925 sales this week, or $1,848 of total sales action. When we're looking at the Zealot, we can't forget what this card is bringing to the table. This is a human cleric, so it fits into all kinds of nice tribal themed decks. We've also got a mana cost with just 1 black and 1 generic. It is a 3/2 creature, and of course the card text does read, sacrifice another creature or artifact, and you get to surveil 1. Now, when we're looking at the Umbral, let's not forget that this guy is a free sack outlet. He's got Aristocrat strategies going around, and of course he's got the card selection with Surveil. Add that in with some graveyard synergy, and this is a very powerful uncommon that a lot of players are not going to want to ignore, guys. An amazing card for under $1, just awesome. Let's go ahead and check out our number 9 card. Our number 9 card this week is the Anti-Causal Vestige from Edge of Eternities. It locks in 2,101 sales, or $4,623.21 of total sales action. When we're looking at this card at $2.21, that's a pretty reasonable price tag to get this card. Now, the Anti-Causal Vestige is an Eldrazi. That's amazing. It's got a mana cost of 6 with a power and toughness of 7/5. The card text, though, is where things get really crazy. This thing says when it leaves the battlefield, you get to draw a card, and of course, putting all kinds of permanents onto the battlefield is always great. The warp mechanic, of course, just ramps this thing up. And then, of course, we've got the accelerator ramp of being able to lay out lands from your battlefield directly into play, kind of working with landfall. And blink effects are something we shouldn't be ignoring with this card either. There's a lot going on that is going to represent this card for future gameplay. So the Anti-Causal has a lot going on, and the sales are really showing that this card is picking up steam. Our next card is the Cryogen Relic. Now, an average price of 27 cents is nothing big for the number 8 card. 2,578 sales, or $696 though, tells you that a lot of players are still buying this card. Let's not forget that this thing gives you card draw. That's the main strength. The stun counter effect is a nice aside ability, which can still help you out, but there are synergies to be found with the Cryogen Relic that players are using. The bounce effects, the flicker effects that can happen, as well as the sacrifice effects, make this a really cool ability. Using cards like Deadly Dispute and stuff are going to ramp up this card's ability to really help out gameplay, and that's something a lot of players are representing on and recognizing inside deck construction. When you look at the variable effect that this card can offer in all kinds of different strategy building ways, this is why this card continues to sell, continues to see gameplay, and likely will for the entire life cycle of the card inside Standard. And of course, inside Commander or other artifact construction building decks. A great card to talk about. Now, for our next card, we have to dive in and take a look at the Arch Enemy's Charm. This card locks in the number 7 position with 2,720 sales, or $3,688 of sales action. The fact that this card is so affordable and cheap right now is because it is a 3 black mana casting spell, and it is dedicated to using in a mono black deck, maybe a black blue deck, Demir, if you can get the mana supply, which is easier in today's games with a lot of variation lands available to make that happen, but it still means you really have to think about how you're building your deck. But the charm does offer a lot. There's a lot of synergy that can be found with this particular card, and it's all found in one package. Now, it says choose one. Exile target creature or planeswalker, always nice. Return 1 or 2 target creature and or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. That can be an amazing card because this is at instant speed. Or put 2+1/+1 counters on a target creature you control, and it gains lifelink till end of turn. A lot of possibilities for this card. Now, our next one is the Nova Hellkite. Again, Edge of Eternities, taking number 6. And this thing still locks in 2,912 sales, or $10,570.56 of total sales action. Not only is this going to be found inside Dragon decks, there's again a lot going on with some of these cards from Edge of Eternities that seem to be picking up steam the closer we get to the ban date, that we're expecting to see a whole bunch of cards leave play, 2 in particular. Now, when we look at the average price of this card being only $3.63, we know that this card is probably at a very good price point for players to dive into. It's under $5. When we look at the Hellkite itself, it is a 5 casting cost dragon. It has flying, it has haste, but when this creature enters, it deals 1 damage to a target creature an opponent controls. It also has warp, and we can't forget there are ways of flickering this in and out of the battlefield in standard as well as other formats, which means you can do multiple points of damage depending on how you want to use the card. Guys, the Hellkite has a lot going on. This is an amazing card. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next card this week. It's going to be Pain for All. Now, this card takes the number 5 position this week with 3,321 sales, or $2,258.28 of total sales action. Now, Pain for All is only 68 cents. This card costs less than $1. Now, when we look at the card, though, is there a worthwhile reason to buy the card, and how are people putting this into a deck that makes them want to buy so many copies of the card? Well, when we're taking a look at Pain for All, let's not forget 1 red and 2 other means a 3 casting cost enchantment that actually says it's got to enchant a creature you control. When this aura enters, enchanted creature deals damage of its power equal to any other target, which means you can hit creatures, players, whatever you want. Whenever enchanted creature is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to each opponent. So not only in standard, but inside Commander, there are lots of ways to use this card. It's insane. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our next card. This is Thrumming Hivepool. This one saw a surge in sales on Thursday and Friday, and you kind of can guess what's going to happen here. 3,700 sales, $10,471 of total sales action, saw a lot of market movement in this particular card. Now, the Hivepool does see a little bit of play in standard. I've been using it myself. There is a lot going on with the card, though, in the future that players need to recognize and be ready for. This card only costs $2.83. It's not expected to be a high value target, but that doesn't mean it's not going to see play. This is a 6 casting cost artifact. Let's not forget, it fits into any deck, and of course it has affinity for slivers. Slivers you control have double strike and haste, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you create 2 1/1 colorless sliver creature tokens. Now, we are going back to Lorwyn. Lorwyn is the first set that had changelings. Changelings are every creature type at the same time, which means that we are going to see a lot more Sliver Hivepool than people realize. Crazy stuff. Now, our next card is the Frenzy Ballot. This thing continues to see a lot of market movement and a lot of interest in it, okay? I've seen it regularly inside my regular gameplay at stores as well as on Arena. This thing comes in with 4,279 sales, or $15,661.14 of total sales action. With the average price being under $5 still, this thing's a 2 casting cost beast. I can see why it's called a frenzy, because it has so much going on. Now, we know the pre-orders were a lot higher, and a lot of people talked about this card when it was first spoiled. The idea of such a powerful card costing so little to get out, and the fact it does so many different game effects at the same time. When we look at the Frenzy Baloth, by the way, great artwork. I've always enjoyed looking at this one. You can see it is a 2 green, so yeah, it's going to be a lot of green stompy decks. The spell can't be countered, which is insane. It has trample, it has haste. Creature spells you control cannot be countered, and combat damage cannot be prevented. So there's a lot going on when you're looking at cards like this, not only, of course, in Standard, but also in Commander and Modern. This is one of those cards with the trample and haste. It's going to see a home in a lot of different formats, even if it is not expensive. Now, our next card this week coming in to the number 2 position is Terra Symbiosis. This one, again, has seen a lot of action, 4,500 sales, $24,750 of total sales action. I've seen this card regularly show up inside Standard, and that's because of its ability to let you draw cards. Green needs to have card draw to keep its stompiness going because there's a lot of board clearance spells that are going to wipe the battlefield. If you want green to be competitive, you have to have draw ability, and this is the card that's going to make it happen for you right now inside Standard. When you look at the average price of $5.50, it's not the cheapest card for what it's going to do, but at the same time, you basically have to have it to really forward your deck's ideas. When we take a closer look at the card, it's great to know it's only 1 green and 2 other because that means you can splash it into a lot of different decks. It comes in at rare, not mythic, which is nice. And whenever you put more than +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control, you may draw that many cards. Do this only once per turn. So yeah, I could draw 1, or if there's a lot of +1/+1 counters going on, you can draw a lot more. A lot going on with the card, a lot to consider when you're building with it. I know a lot of people who are using 4 of this card inside their decks, and they're finding all kinds of ways to jack on a whole bunch of +1/+1 counters to keep that drawing cycle happening inside their deck. But it's not number 1. Number 1 is the Ice-Till Explorer from Edge of Eternities. So let's take a second here to realize no Spider-Man made it onto the list this week. Nothing. We'll talk about that at the end of the video, of course. The Ice-Till Explorer at 4,992 sales, that's $72,000 this late in its life cycle since release. I never would have thought this card would close in on $100,000 in sales. $14.58 on average. Wish lists everywhere for the card. So what's going on and why are people buying it? Let's not forget what the card does. It is a forecasting cost, 2 green, 2 other. But when we look at the card and it says you may play an additional land each of your turns, you may play land cards from your graveyard, and this thing has landfall, so whenever you lay a land, you get to mill a card, but you could be milling a land, which means you're putting another land into play. This card is insane. I am using it myself inside my Standard deck right now, just 2 of them, but still, I can see it. So should you all. This thing is going to keep selling. The numbers are insane. Let's talk about the market this week. When we consider the week we've just seen for the market, Magic the Gathering singles are selling very well. But the interesting tidbits to consider are that Spider-Man, although it's releasing on the pre-release this weekend and a lot of cards will get opened, none of the pre-orders were high enough to make themselves onto the top 10. Now, normally, I wouldn't even consider that an option. But in the past, we've seen it now with some of the last release cycles with cards from Edge of Eternities on the pre-order coming in, as well as things like even stock up from Aether Drift, as well as Final Fantasy cards regularly push themselves on even in the pre-order time period. So this is interesting for Spider-Man to see that the cards are probably going to sell very well, but they're probably not going to crack into the top 10 until next week's edition. Now, when we're considering looking at what cards in Edge of Eternities are doing well, isn't it interesting that there are so many cards that are doing so well in sales week over week, month over month? They're not all the same cards. Different cards are finding favor, other cards drop off. The card prices have been nicely suppressed, allowing a lot of players to get into the market and look for the cards thereafter. And of course, new synergies are going to be found with upcoming sets like Avatar, Lorwyn, and the expanding universe of Magic, that we are going to see a lot of cards start rising in price as less boxes get open. And Wizards of the Coast still hasn't solved the box opening dilemma. Now, the funny thing about that, I'm going to say to you guys that although boxes will become available, people don't tend to buy a lot of boxes and crack them at the store level. Yes, there are exceptions, but it's not the rule. Individual packs get opened at this point in any life cycle of a product. People don't go after release and say, I need to open 5 boxes of Final Fantasy looking for these key cards. No, they go to the singles market. The market has decided the values, and it means most boxes don't get opened, but there will be people who want to buy the boxes for future usage, either for reselling or for future drafts and chaos and crazy things you can do for fun. Guys, it's a crazy market right now. I never would have expected Edge of Eternities to muscle in the way it has and been so dominant in this market space for such a long period of time. It had a few little ins and outs, but it's feeling more like Final Fantasy in the way it has dominated the market space for our top 10 videos. So thank you again for hanging out. Drop some comments in the comment section. Let me know how you guys feel about how this market is unfolding, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the Reserve List Top 10. The hottest selling cards on the Reserve List. Can you believe it? And a reminder to everyone at the end of the video, there is no live stream this weekend. I will not be available. I am not here, so I can't help you all. We'll be back the following weekend for our, of course, live streams on Sunday, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day, everyone. A big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons of my channel. Because of those patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible for YouTube each and every day. And I always like to take a moment at the end of any given video to thank those people who took the time, opened their wallets, and helped out the channel. So thank you again to my patrons and YouTube membership members for helping out each and every month. I look forward to seeing you guys every day. And of course, we'll be back tomorrow with another video. So until then, shop smart, shop S-Smart. You didn't really think that I was going to miss a chance to do a ramble jamble right now, did you? No. Just give me a second. There's a lot of talking. Throat's still not 100%. Isn't that weird? Like, not to be too gross, but everyone, it's like the phlegmy feeling at the back of your throat that kind of makes you cough like all the time. I've used all kinds of things to like I feel great, but I've used all these things to kind of keep that suppressed, but it's not really clearing up. It's kind of annoying me. Anyway, we'll get on to hotter things in a second. There, now you've heard some gross details of personal stuff about the Moxman. Let's move on to what's going on. I never would have expected Edge of Eternities to do what it's done. That's insane to me. It just doesn't make sense as a standard set. Not even versus Beyond, standard. Now, does that speak to the player's belief in standard in-house universe sets? Or did Wizards just put together such a good set that the sales continue to unfold as players try new things? I think it's a little bit of all of them, honestly. But my brain just keeps going back saying, these are really good deals. And the prices are good on the cards. They're decent. I like that. I like that things are relatively affordable, but they're still the collectible level for the people who really want to indulge and open their wallets wide and say, what can I get? You know, I like this stuff. It's great. This Ramble Jamble is reminding me that there's always so much more to talk about that you can't always place in a 10 to 15 minute video, right? I mean, I know we did the video the other day talking about reserve list stuff and how some of these cards are just so hot and people don't realize it. And there was a couple people who debated saying like, hey, this card's, you know, look at this card. It's basically the same thing. It's like, basically, but it's not. It has similar effects, but it usually costs more or has more drawbacks. Crazy stuff when it comes to the reserve list. Anyway, I'm off topic, which is usually how things unfold. I'm out of here. Have a great one. Ramble in the Jamble.